World War II was a battle of tanks, guns, and armies, but it was also a war of secrets. Hidden behind the front lines were men and women who fought with information instead of weapons. Among them, one spy stood out. His name was Juan Pujol García. His story is almost unbelievable, but it is true, and he played a huge role in changing the course of history. Juan Pujol García was a Spaniard. He had no formal training in espionage. In fact, at the start of the war, he did not even have a side. But what he did have was a deep hatred for fascism. He wanted to help defeat Hitler, and he was willing to risk everything to do it. At first, Pujol offered his services to the British. They turned him down. Undeterred, he came up with a bold plan. He approached the Germans instead. He pretended to be a loyal Nazi supporter. The Germans believed him. They recruited him as a spy and gave him the code name Arabelle. With this new role, Pujol set up a fake network of agents across Britain. None of these agents actually existed. They were all fictional. Yet he reported back to Germany with detailed information, all fabricated but believable. The Germans loved his reports. They trusted him completely. Meanwhile, Pujol approached British intelligence again. This time they listened. They realized the value of a man who had the enemy's full confidence. They codenamed him Garbo and began feeding him carefully crafted false information to pass along to the Germans. Pujol's greatest contribution came in 1944. The Allies were planning the biggest invasion of the war, D-Day. They wanted to land forces on the beaches of Normandy, France. But if the Germans knew where the attack would happen, they could crush it before it even began. The British needed a way to fool Hitler. They needed the Germans to believe the invasion would happen elsewhere. That's where Pujol came in. Working with British intelligence, Pujol began sending reports that suggested the Allies would attack at Pas de Calais, not Normandy. He told the Germans that Normandy was just a diversion. The real attack, he said, would come later at Calais. To make the lie even stronger, Pujol's fictional network of spies backed up his claims. They created fake radio traffic. They planted false rumors. They even staged dummy military camps in England pointing toward Calais. The deception worked. Hitler believed Pujol. German generals believed Pujol. When D-Day came on June 6, 1944, the Germans held back their best troops, waiting for an attack at Calais that never came. Because of Pujol's lies, the Allies were able to establish a foothold in Normandy. Thousands of lives were still lost, but many more were saved. Without Pujol, the invasion might have failed. World War II might have dragged on for years longer. Some historians believe it could have ended very differently. But what made Pujol so successful? First, he was incredibly patient. He spent years building his fake network and gaining German trust. Second, he was creative. He made up detailed stories about his fictional agents' lives. He even had one of them die and asked the Germans for money to support the agent's grieving widow. Third, Pujol understood human nature. He knew people want to believe what fits their hopes. Hitler wanted to believe the Allies would strike at Calais. Pujol simply gave him reasons to hold on to that belief. After the war, Pujol disappeared. The British faked his death to protect him from Nazi revenge. For years, the world thought he had died of malaria in Angola. In reality, he lived quietly in Venezuela under a new name. His story did not come to light until the 1980s. A British historian tracked him down. By then, Pujol was an old man, but his memory of those days remained sharp. He received a hero's welcome when his deeds became public. Today, his role is recognized as one of the most important acts of espionage in history. Pujol's actions show the immense power of deception in warfare. A single man, without firing a shot, helped tip the balance of a global conflict. He fought with lies instead of bullets, and he won. Other spies contributed to the war effort as well. The work of agents like Virginia Hall, Richard Sword, and the Cambridge Five had important impacts. But Pujol's work was unique because of its scale and success. By 1944, he had built a web of 27 fictional agents. Each agent had a backstory. Each had a role. Some were dock workers. Others were soldiers or businessmen. Some were pro-British. Others were supposedly disloyal. This mixture of personalities made the network seem real. Pugel's reports were so convincing that even after the Allies landed at Normandy, Hitler kept forces back at Calais for weeks. The delay allowed Allied troops to build up strength, advance inland, and liberate France. It also shortened the war in Europe. The British awarded Pugel an MBE, member of the Order of the British Empire, for his services. Ironically, the Germans also awarded him the Iron Cross, one of their highest military honors. They never realized they had been fooled by their own hero. It is rare in history to find a case where one individual had such an outsized impact. Pugel was not a soldier. He was not a general. He was simply a man with courage, imagination, and a deep sense of purpose. Today, Pugel's story serves as a reminder that wars are not won only on the battlefield. Information, trust, and deceit can change the course of history just as surely as any tank or bomber. If the Germans had discovered Pugel's deception early, the outcome might have been disastrous. But they didn't. His success was a mix of skill, luck, and timing. Every detail he sent was just believable enough. Every lie was wrapped in half-truths. The British knew that D-Day was a massive gamble. They needed every advantage. Pugel gave them the biggest one. His actions helped bring about the end of Nazi rule in Europe. There were moments of danger. If just one German agent had visited Britain to check Pugel's information, the entire scheme could have unraveled. But the Germans never doubted him. Historians often asked how World War II could have ended differently. Without Pugel's deception, it is likely that Hitler would have crushed the Normandy invasion. If that had happened, the Allies might have been forced to postpone their plans for years. The Soviet Union might have taken even more of Europe. The Cold War might have started in a far darker place. In the end, one man changed the world. Not with a gun, not with a tank, but with lies spun so carefully that the greatest military minds of Germany believed them. Juan Pujol Garcia's story reminds us that bravery comes in many forms. His courage, cleverness, and determination helped shape the modern world. Few people know his name, but millions owe him a debt. Sometimes, it only takes one spy to turn the tide of history.